It's good to be here this morning. It's always good to be here. This is a church I grew up in, and it's a joy to come back and to be able to be a part of your congregation and to preach as well. I'm thankful to Kirsty for the invitation and to the church. It's like I said, it's a great joy to be here. But I do have to say that I hope to get you into trouble this morning. I heard this song sometime last year, and it really hit me, and I realized this had happened to me, and it was a good thing. Alicia, do you want to sing a few lines from the song?
When I close my eyes so I would not see, my Lord did trouble me. When I let things stand that should not be, my Lord did trouble me. When I held my head too high, too proud, my Lord did trouble me. When I raised my voice a little too loud, my Lord did trouble me.
Thank you, Alicia. I heard that and I thought, wow, I'm retired. I'm not supposed to get troubled, but here I am. The story of Moses and the burning bush is a classic example of something that happens over and over again in the Bible. God troubling whoever it is at the moment that needs to be troubled. And I believe that God troubles us. Moses' life had turned well for him, peaceful actually. As you know, he grew up in Egypt in the Pharaoh's court. And historians say there were maybe 800 children running around because the Pharaoh had lots of children, lots of wives and lots of children. And so it was quite a place. But he was aware that he was a Hebrew child. And he was aware that most of the Hebrew people were slaves. And they had a very oppressed life. And so he saw an Egyptian soldier beating up a Hebrew, and he just went off and he killed the Egyptian soldier. And some other people saw him, witnessed it, and the word got back to the Pharaoh, and Moses had to run for his life. So he had a life of privilege, but then he was outside of Egypt, and he found his way to Midian, and he found a wife, he had children, he had flocks of sheep. Everything was going well. Everything was peaceful. He had a good life. And then he saw this burning bush. He was out tending the flock, and off to the side he saw this bush on fire. He went over to look, and he could tell that it wasn't being consumed at all. It was a really strange thing. And then a voice came from the bush saying, "Moses, take off your shoes. You're standing on holy ground." He was wondering what was going on, and God said to him, "I've been hearing the cries of my people, your people in Egypt. They're suffering greatly, and I'm going to do something about it." And Moses said, "Great, that is great. It's about time somebody did something about it." And God said, "And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you to do something about it." "Oh, me? I can't do it. I don't speak very well." "Well, there's your brother Aaron. He can speak for you." "Well, I'll be with you all the way," God said. I will encourage you. I will strengthen you. I will give you hope and courage. Just go. God troubled Moses. Now, we sometimes get the idea that, it's just the big names that get troubled like that. Moses and Abraham and Jacob and then Jesus and Mary and Joseph, the ones we know all about. But the truth is that all through the Bible, it's a story of God troubling people to do something, no matter how big or how small. Before we even hear about Moses, we hear about Shiphrah and Puah. Do you know who Shiphrah? Katie's nodding her head. Do you know who Shiphrah and Puah were? They were midwives, Hebrew midwives. And before we even hear about Moses, we hear about how the Pharaoh was feeling afraid of the vast numbers of Hebrew people. And even though they were slaves, he was afraid of an uprising. And so he called in the midwives, the Hebrew midwives, and said, I'm the Pharaoh here. You have to do what I say, or you're in trouble. And I want you to kill the baby boys as they're being born. When you go to help give birth the child, I want you to kill the boys. Don't do that to the girls. The Pharaoh wasn't very smart. I mean, how did he think they would be able to get away with that? But anyway, the midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, didn't say anything, but they were troubled. And they didn't do it. They obeyed God, not the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh called them in with all his might and power and his soldiers. He called in these two midwives and said, what's going on here? I'm hearing that the Hebrew baby boys are surviving. And they lied. They just out and out lied. And they said, Hebrew women are so strong that they give birth by themselves before we even get there. We can't do anything. And the Lord blessed them. The Lord had troubled them, and the Lord blessed them. These troubling things that God does are for all of us, actually, that want to be people of faith. When John the Baptist was telling about Jesus coming he said, I baptize you with water, but one is coming who baptizes you with the Holy Spirit and with fire. You know what that fire is? God troubling you and me. Like I said, this happened to me. I retired about 3.5 years ago, and I had given 45 years in the ministry, and I was ready to just spend time with family, of course, which God didn't trouble me about that. He thought that was a good thing. And to enjoy life. I knew I wanted to do some things, sure. I was still not just a retired pastor, but a Christian, a believer, and had to live out in some way. But so I was doing some things. One of the things I agreed to do was a wedding for some family friends, a young couple, really nice young couple. And I was talking to them before the wedding about the future, their future as husband and wife. And they started telling me that they weren't planning on having children. And I, just out of curiosity, I said, oh, tell me about that. And they said they were really concerned about the way the world was. They were really concerned about the climate. They were concerned about what it would be like for children born now, 2030, 2040, 2050, right in the prime of their life. They weren't sure it was fair to bring a child into the kind of world that might be becoming. And I talked to my own children are young adults, and they had the same kind of anxiety about what the future holds. And I was, shortly after that conversation with that couple, I was on the floor in my living room playing with then they were 2 and 3 years old, Lincoln and Francie, grandchildren, and having a great time. And I was thinking about the fears that there are for the future. And I thought, if I really love them, I don't just spend time with them, but I do something in the world that will make a difference for them, a difference for good. My Lord was troubling me about that. So I decided to get involved in issues around climate change. I wanted to learn more and to do more. And so I looked around and I found this group called Elders Climate Legacy. It was a group of elders, old folk, who, like me, who wanted to leave a better legacy than they'd been leaving in terms of climate especially. And so I joined them to learn more and to do more. And one of the things that I'm involved with now, a number of things I've gotten involved with, but there's a group of, I'm on a steering committee and there was an article about this in the paper last week, called Faith to Forest Project. In 2022 is the 150th anniversary of Arbor Day. And so one of the things that we can do to help the climate, to draw carbon from the air, is to plant more trees. And trees are crucial in this effort. And so we're promoting this with churches and faith communities, Faith to Forest program to plant more trees, care for more trees. City Parks and Recreation are going to do a pruning program where they teach people to prune trees after they planted them, to care for them, and we'll have volunteers. And by the way, Kirsty and First Church has signed up for this as part of this project. So look for hearing more about this. So hopefully I'm not causing too much trouble by talking about it now. But it's coming. But there's lots of different ways to be concerned. And different ways that God is troubling me, and I imagine troubling you too about many things. I don't want to just make this a big long rant of all the things I'm troubled about. I'm not going to do that, but I do want to rant about one other thing that God is troubling me about, and that is our general response to the pandemic that has killed millions of people, and almost 1 million in the United States alone. And so many people have responded well, have responded to, yes, we want to get vaccinated. Yes, we're wearing masks. Yes, we want to participate in solving the problem. But there's too many that have said, this is a free country. We can do whatever the hell we want. And that bothers me, that's a higher value than let's work at this together. Let's do this together. We can, if a much larger percentage of people had gotten vaccinated and were wearing masks, and the pandemic could have been over by now. And there's hope coming, I believe, but we're in the 5th wave now. I wonder whatever happened to the popularity of John F. Kennedy's words, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Whatever happened to leaders talking about community-mindedness and putting other people first? Well, that's a chance for churches to get into trouble, to do good trouble, as John Lewis put it. I'm concerned about that response, not just with the pandemic itself. It's going to someday, we'll be past that for the most part. But what does that say about how we deal with climate change if a large percentage of people don't want to cooperate and be a part of it? So part of it, it's not about being angry at other people, it's about inviting people to come together to do what is needed to be right and good in this world. So, now, I do want to circle around a little bit and say, I do actually, I'm talking about God troubling us, but I do remember Jesus also saying, let not your hearts be troubled. Remember that? Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe in me. And I think they actually complement each other. Let not your hearts be troubled. Be comforted by God's presence. Be comforted by God's love. Be comforted by God's giving us strength and encouragement. But when we talk about the heart, we're talking about love and compassion. And Jesus is saying, let not your love and compassion be troubled. In other words, with all the troubling things happening in the world, don't let the love and compassion stop. Don't let them be troubled. The heart, the heart. The heart represents courage. Don't let your courage be troubled with all the things facing us, all the things out there in the world. Don't let your courage be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. And trust and work. And follow the words of John Lewis. I mentioned him before, the civil rights activist who died last year, a congressman from Georgia. John Lewis said, just a reminder of what he said, my philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. Get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. And so this morning and every day in prayer, my Lord does trouble me. But it's a good trouble, a necessary trouble for us to speak out and to do what each of us is gifted to do in our own ways and through our own relationships. So, my Lord did trouble me.
When I close my eyes so I would not see, my Lord did trouble me. When I let things stand that should not be, my Lord did trouble me. When I held my head too high, too proud, my Lord did trouble me. When I raised my voice a little too loud, my Lord did trouble me. Did trouble me with a word or sign, with a ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. Did trouble me, did stir my soul, for to make me human, to make me whole. When I slept too long and I slept too deep, put a worrisome vision into my sleep. When I held myself away and apart, and the tears of my brother didn't move my heart, did trouble me with a word or sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. sure, and of this I know, my Lord will trouble me. Whatever I do and wherever I go, my Lord will trouble me. In the whisper of the wind and the rhythm of a song, my Lord will trouble me, to keep me on the path where I belong. My Lord will trouble me, will trouble me with a word or sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. Will trouble me, did stir my soul, for to make me human is to make me whole. For to make me human is to make me